Hello, what's everyone saying? Good evening and welcome to the United Stand. My name's Levin2K. I'm joined by the amazing Jordan. Jordan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. And first of all, this is our first show together. So I just want to say welcome to the team. Welcome to the family. I've been looking forward to this link up. Everybody in the comments has been asking for it. Finally, we're together.
No, honestly, it's been, even though I've not been around for a long time, I've been waiting for this one. And it's an interesting night because I think there is sort of the one major story that I think we are going to start off with that people are talking about. And I think it is quite a big deal. And that is obviously the reason for the thumbnail. Paul Pogba's in there. Paul Pogba, a report coming out from The Independent that Paul Pogba is being offered a €500,000 contract per week. That's per week, €500,000 to stay at Manchester United. That is what Manchester United are offering him. And I think I've already given away my sort of reaction, but Jordan, what do you think of that?
First of all, I just need you to say to me, you know what I mean, Harry? Because I'm getting pure Bruno vibes when you're talking to me. Like, I absolutely love your voice. Like, this is a pleasure.
But I've heard that one a lot this week. I've heard Harry Bruno a lot. I've heard a lot. Darth Vader, all of them.
I'm loving this. 500k a week for Pog. Madness. Absolute madness. And I think this is a consequence of a couple of things. I think this is a domino effect from the whole COVID thing, because I think pre-COVID it was lined up that he probably would have moved on. The ball is now in Raiola and Pogba's corner. The Glazers want to protect their asset and want to try and get maximum value for him. So I think they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. They're not really going to get much more than 30, 40 million for him, where really, if he was in, normal circumstances and locked into a contract, he's 100 mil all day for what he's capable of and the marketing asset he is in terms of sponsorships, etc., shirt sales.
Yeah.
He's 100 million plus. So the Glazers are looking at it and they don't really have a choice. Like I said, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. But trust me, I would not be handing him half a million pounds a week.
Yeah, it's mad because, so what, €500,000, that's about £400,000, right? And that would still make him the highest paid player in the Premier League, higher than the already highest, which is what I think at our club it's David De Gea, who's on around 375, I think, reportedly. So it'd make him the highest paid player in the Prem, and it's almost ruined our whole wage structure. It's very controversial. I'm seeing some super chats coming in. Thank you guys. This is the evening show, the 10 p.m. show. We keep the vibes, some chill vibes, so we get to just talk about what's been going on throughout the day. We got a super chat here from Gwydion, who says, "Have you seen reports on Aliou Dieng, African CDM? I haven't seen the reports, but us being linked to CDMs makes me happy." Do you know what I mean?
Listen, 1,000,000%. Like I said before, them two jelly beans in midfield. Like, we need to be looking at adding some strength. And we're talking about Pogba signing a new contract. Levin, the only way we're going to get the best out of Pogba is by putting somebody proper, solid CDM next to him so that he can express himself.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's always a controversial topic because people will say, we brought Pogba in for so much money. Why do we now need to surround him with more players? But I never really subscribe to that argument, because you look at where he succeeded in the past, you look at what he had in the midfield with him, and there's no doubt that, Man United have responsibility to surround him with, better quality players to be able to give him the freedom to do what he does best. You watch him in that France midfield, he has so much freedom to create. And, even in interviews that he had leading into the Euros, he's talking about how when he's in the midfield for United, he's priorities to defend, because the person who's next to him defensively also isn't that amazing. And so there's the focus on defending. And look, I like Pogba. I want to keep Pogba at the club. Would I give him 400,000 a week to stay? That's a hard one, Jordan, because you look at some of the players who are at the club who maybe are going to output more than him. The likes of Bruno's only on about 100k. Do you know what I mean? Bruno's not even anywhere near one of the highest paid players at the club. What happens now when Bruno wants his contract increase, which is valid, it's deserved? What's he going to ask for? Are you going to give Bruno 500k?
If I was Bruno, I'd already be knocking the manager's door, because they know what kind of money De Gea's on. And, there's a strong argument that I think most people would win that Bruno brings more to the team than De Gea. So why is Bruno on less money? So yeah, it sets a bad example. We had it with Sanchez as well. You know, he's come into the club. He was on crazy money, and it just leaves a sour taste in people's mouth that players are on that kind of money. There needs to be a ceiling that all the top players are at, and nobody sort of more than that. You can go kind of, $5,000 here, $5,000 there. You get that. But when Bruno's on 100, 150K and Pogba's sat there on 400K, it really sets the wrong example. It really does.
Yeah. We have Goldie here saying, hey guys, would you like to swap De Ligt for Pogba given a chance? And I don't know where you stand on this. I've seen some reports, I don't know how credible they are, but I've seen some reports regarding Pogba being involved in swap deals, which sort of contrast this, because if he's being offered a new contract, the swap deals don't really make sense. But I don't want to swap Pogba for somebody else, because, some of these players should be coming in to add to the squad, to improve the squad, because at the end of the day, Pogba is a quality player. He's one of our best players. And so if we're getting rid of him, but bringing in someone who, yes, might be plugging in a hole, which is a weaker hole in the case of De Ligt, right? A defensive, recruitment is great. But, then you're taking away from the midfield. We're losing one of our best creative players. So it's like, you're still going to have to replace Pogba. And so I don't know how you feel about, swapping him out, or maybe trying to get some sort of swap deal done. But, I do just think it has to be, we keep Pogba and we're bringing people in. Do we keep Pogba on 400K is also the question, right?
Yeah. Just before I respond to that, guys, make sure that we're hitting the like, subscribe, and share. Let's try and get these numbers up. Myself, 11, linking up for the first time on the United stand.
Come on.
10 p.m. A little bit of a wrap-up show. Been looking forward to linking up with him. So hit the share and subscribe. I think behind closed doors, the Glazers and Ed Woodward are absolutely bricking it that they're about to lose their assets for free for the second time. So I think they are scouring the transfer market, looking at all the big clubs and seeing what player swap deal they can do in order to not lose him on a free next season. So your De Ligts, your Varans, players like that they can present to us as fans and go, yeah, we haven't got Pogba, but this is who we have got. Yeah. And come away with some kind of credibility. I feel that's what they're trying to do behind closed doors. I honestly think it's absolute panic stations behind closed doors, because the ball is fully in Pogba and Riola's corner. And you look at Riola's other clients, this is his model. This is what he does. He winds the contracts down so then he can, go around Europe, pimp those players out and move them on to other clubs for bigger money.
Yeah, literally. That is the Raiola model, right? He wants to put his players in a position where they are able to sign on free so that the contracts they get from the new clubs are higher, so that his agent fees and bonuses are higher, right? And, props to him. He's doing what he's doing as an agent. I think you look at Pogba and you think to yourself, 400 grand a week, highest paid player in the Prem. Look.
Don't.
Look, Pogba's a talented player. Pogba is a fantastic player, but has what he's done in the past 5 years, forget what we surrounded him with, because of course, yes, United have a duty to surround him with talent, but regardless of that, has what you've seen from him justified being the highest paid player in the Premier League? I love Pogba, but no, I don't even think there's a question about it.
Yeah, and you know what? People think that I don't like Pogba. I love Pogba. I think he's an absolute baller. Do I feel we've got the best of Pogba? No. Do I feel like we've given him the best surroundings in order for him to be better? No. Do I think if he signs a new contract, we're going to rectify those mistakes and then give him the players? No, I don't. So I feel for him as a player, it's better for him to move on, and us as a club, it's better for him to move on, because if he does sign the new contract, like I said, the economic world will recover, and more clubs will financially be able to afford him. And all we're going to have is that circus that surrounds him. Every time he goes on international duty, he'll be in the press flirting. Raiola will be flirting, running up his gums, and will just keep causing us issues. So no, I don't feel he is worth that money. But unfortunately, we're in a position where they are going to have to make a crazy offer to protect their assets. We know that they're bankers. They run it like a business, and they're going to look at this and go, short-term loss, long-term gain. If they can sign him up for 400K a week and pay that for the next 12, 18 months, Real Madrid suddenly get money, PSG suddenly get money, Barcelona, Juve, whoever it is, suddenly get in a position to buy. They then go from selling him for 30, 40 million, or swapping a player for him to then getting it more up to the 100 million pound mark. So for them, they're looking at it as a business decision. They're going to have to take a step backwards in order to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah. And it's weird because we always do have this conversation of they are bankers and they're business people, which is true. But you look at the way they've run the business, look at the wages we're giving out. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of business is being run here? Somebody did a chat earlier and they said, what, Phil Jones is on 100 and something K, you know, is Pogba worth 4 Phil Joneses? And it's funny, right? But at the same time, it's like, how is Phil Jones on that money, right? Some of these players are on crazy wages, and it's like, who authorized these deals? And is it the same people we're calling good bankers? Like, you know, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know what though? Like, just to explain that, their thinking behind that is like, if you're renting a house and you're just paying your rent each month, but you want to buy, the outlay to buy is always bigger. So it's always cheaper to just keep paying that weekly wage. So you ultimately don't have to replace that player on a big outlay sum in the squad. So that's the reason why they'll just keep extending these contracts. And yeah, they keep paying silly wages. Phil Jones on 125, 150k a week, absolutely robbing us blind. But you've got to free these man. You've got to look at it and go, right, they are now not offering us anything. Let's move them on for something. But I do feel with Pogba, he is a special player, a special asset, and that the difference between selling him at 100 million, which in normal circumstances he would be worth, to letting him go for 30 million, I can understand why they sat there going, we've got no choice. We're going to have to offer him a contract. However, Riola will say to him, even signing at 400k a week, we're still better off running him down that contract, because the signing on fee and the percentage that Riola will earn from that signing on fee of a new club on a free transfer is way more than him sat there picking up a percentage of Pogba's wages.
Yeah, and I've reached a point where I've almost just accepted that he will probably just run down his contract. I want to spin it though. I want to give you sort of a new angle, right? If you let's say Pogba is to sign this deal that makes him the highest paid player in the Premier League.
Stop saying that. It literally makes all the hair stand up on my arms. Tingles.
It's mad. It's honestly mad. But let's say he is to become that. Oli has to play him. And let's say we do go on to do this Sancho deal that a lot of people think is imminent, and we're not here to talk about Sancho, but let's say we get Sancho in the squad. Sancho's going to start because he's the marquee signing. He's going to play. So you have Cavani who's going to start. You have, you know, Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right. He has to play Pogba. Pogba's the most expensive. But you can't do this whole thing of playing Pogba off the left anymore because, you know, Rashford's going to be, assuming Rashford's healthy, you got to play Rashford there, right? So it's like, you have to play Pogba in the pivot now. Who do you play next to him in the pivot? You're going to play McTominay, you're going to play Fred. That, we know the problems that has. Oli showed throughout the season that he doesn't necessarily trust that in big games. So they're going to back him and get a CDM to play there. Like, what now happens in that position where you have to play Pogba? You can't play him off the left because we have so many wingers who need to play. You have to play him in the midfield. Who do you play him next to in the pivot?
Well, that logically to anyone else, yeah, makes sense that you would have to pay him if he's on that kind of money. But let's rewind back to the season just gone. You've got David De Gea on 375k a week, picking up splinters on the bench. True. So there's no logic.
That pains me, man. That pains, when you actually think about it, because regardless of what you think about the goalkeeper situation, regardless of who you want, every time David De Gea is on the bench, that is our highest paid player just on the bench. That's
chilling. Just chilling. Yeah, so logically you would say, yes, you have to play Pogba, you have to play him in his correct position and sign players in order to allow Pogba to thrive. But he's been at the club for years and no one seems to have done that. And I also go back to the thing, like you said at the beginning of the show, the fact that we are now starting to get linked to CDMs is a good thing, because previously we weren't. And I honestly, I said to Mark before, I feel like Ollie's happy with Fred and McTominay. I feel like he's happy with them. You know, he's had opportunities not to play them, and he always goes back to them. So the fact that we weren't getting linked was a concern to me. But now we are. I'm a little bit more at ease. But in terms of signing Sancho isn't going to bring the best out of Paul Pogba.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Sancho because we had a super chat from Steve-O who said, more worried about what wages are being offered to Sancho, heard 300 plus K a week. He's so young and unproven in the Premier League. Where did the board draw the line? And I do think that's a big point because, you know, there were the reports that Sancho was going to come out and get, you know, crazy money. And it's like, you know, we bring in Sancho for mad wages. We give Pogba this new contract. We already have a bunch of players on mad wages. You know, where do you now fit in the wages of someone like a Ramos or Varane if you bring one of them in? Even beyond that, looking at Sancho, like, does somebody who is that young and unproven in the Premier League at least deserve those kind of wages? It's like, what is good? Like, who is sanctioning these deals? I don't get it.
Madness, absolute madness. But then, you know, I do ask the question then, you know, if we are paying over the odds to these players, there was players that Ollie sat down with and weren't able to get the deal done. So you look at Bellingham, like, why couldn't we have got that deal done? They sat down, met. We're paying crazy wages. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world. We weren't able to get that deal done. Like, as soon as we've got players that are signing for us solely for just the wages that we're offering, we are in a really, really bad place. Like, we need players that want to come to Man United and want to put us back to the top of the league, not players that are like, do you know what, I've had enough of Germany. I could pick up 300k a week. I'm just going to go to Manchester United. That is not the ambition that we need at this club. We did that previously with Alexis Sanchez, and it bit us on the arse. We need players that are hungry and want to come and prove themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because with Bellingham, right, it's like, I think the big thing for him would be just the playing time, right? I think he knew going to Germany, like Sancho did, you know, he was going to go and going to get a lot more playing time in a people, you know, crap on the Bundesliga, but in a somewhat competitive league and get the chance to play Champions League football. Whereas, you know, that might actually be something you look at with our setup where it's like, you know, would somebody, because I don't think Bellingham would have got playing time, right? I think a lot of people, you look at how some of the young people have been treated, Bellingham wouldn't have gotten playing time, but he's definitely good enough. So is that sort of like an oversight where it's like, what would have happened with Bellingham? Because who's not able to see that he is good enough to play? Like, there's a lot of questions there, but it's like, I agree with you. I don't think he probably would have gotten the game time needed, even though he clearly is good enough.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like I said, this is where it comes back to. Ollie is happy with Fred and McTominay because there's been other options, and he's chose not to play them. You know, he has. So, yeah, again, that comes back to the manager. And I watched your first show and listened to your views on Ollie, and I do agree with you. I feel like, you know, the phrase gets thrown about, is he the man before the man? And I respect the job that he's done so far. But do I feel like he can take us to that next level, especially with the limitations the board's put on him?
Yeah.
No, I really don't. And I said I'd give him till May. We've got to May, and we're now in a position where, look, the changes haven't been made. I'm not going to be screaming Ollie out, or whatnot. I'm going to back the manager, and let's see where we're at Christmas. But ultimately, you know, he needs bodies, but then he needs to know how to use the bodies.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely big questions around whether he's been able to use the bodies available to him because, you know, on the topic of youth players, we have young players who have shown glimpses of them being brilliant. You know, the likes of Diallo, who you could question whether Diallo should have gotten more game time. You know, Donny's still quite young. It's not like, you know, Donny's only about 24 or something, right? Like, he's still quite young. Like, how do you sort of use him? It's like, you know, there's been players there that you could argue he's not trusted, he's not utilized. Even the players that got sent out on loan, like Delo, right now we're hearing that Delo might actually get a chance to stay or wherever it is. That's you know, it's one of these things that I do sort of have worries about. We have a super chat here from Jaideep, hopefully I said that name correctly. He says, Pogba can put his foot down, sign a CDM and centre back by June, and I will sign. He'd be a hero and win some silverware. Now, I like this, but the problem that I have with this is that as players, right, you know, I'm not a player, so, you know, putting myself in the mind of a player might be naive, but I don't think players are all thinking about that. Do you know what I mean? I think, of course, yeah, players might think, yeah, hopefully they'd bring in some better players around me, especially if you don't rate the players, but I don't think Pogba's sitting there thinking, yeah, let me just go demand transfers. I'm just thinking, do you know what I mean? Like, you're more so focused on yourself. I don't know if he's the kind of person to go out and do that. I don't know what you think, Jordan.
Yeah, I don't. It's hard to put your mind, like you said, in the mindset of a player, but I feel like Riola's pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I feel like he's a very, very dominant agent and dictates to his clients what to do and what not to do. So I feel like a lot of the decisions are probably taken out of Paul Pogba's hands. And you can tell that by the way, like I said, Riola runs his mouth about Pogba, and Pogba doesn't step out and go, "Oh, actually, no, that's not my views." Just sits back and lets his agent does his thing. So, yeah, like I said, I feel, if he does sign the contract, put it this way, if he signs a 4-year contract, I'd be surprised if he stays another 12, 18 months anyway. I feel like he's going to end up going in the next 12, 18 months. And the reason is just to protect the asset from the Glazers, from the board. I feel like I said, their hands are tied. Guys, I see lots of people in the comments asking me about Wales playing Denmark next weekend. Just quickly on that, not worried whatsoever. Very confident, guys. But I'll cover that another time on That's Football. Look, I didn't want you to think I was ignoring you. That's all.
You got to be careful, because after the way Denmark apparently played, I couldn't watch it unfortunately, but apparently they played well. So you might be in for a shock. Who knows? So you'll get to that though.
I listened to the stream over on That's Football with Mark, and he's talking about scared sheep and all that whatnot. Listen, I'll speak to Mark on Saturday. Don't you worry.
Don't let him have you. Don't let him have you. You got to give it back to him. Do you know what I mean?
Never.
Look, I think the general consensus is that Pogba on 400k just isn't right. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of what you think of him as a player, it isn't right, because a lot of people are starting to sort of highlight what I was referring to there earlier, where it's like, would he even play week in, week out on that? Because it's like, in big games, all he wants to play McFred in the pivot. But if there's a big game and Sancho and Rashford are healthy, you've got to play Rashford on the left, and you're playing Sancho on the right. You just signed him for 80 odd million. So it's like, what happens with Pogba? Are you now just going to trust Pogba in the double pivot with Fred or McTominay? Like, if so, where was that last season when we maybe needed a bit more creativity in the midfield? So, so it's a hard one.
Yeah, let me do this super chat from Callum Stock. Big up to both of you. And Levin, you have done great so far. And Jordan, I don't know if you know them, but my Welsh team is Aberystwyth. So big up to them. Big up Aberystwyth, West Wales. Beautiful place, beautiful beaches. So big up all the Welsh locked in. Always show me love and support on the channel. Levin, I wanted to ask you about this Manchester City 100 million plus players offer for Harry Kane. Because to me, that is absolutely frightening. Now I look at it, and that is them moving like a big club. Now everybody kept saying leading into this this whole Kane hoo-ha, but he won't go to Man City. They don't spend that much money. They don't spend that much money because they haven't needed to spend that much money.
Yeah.
They've managed to scout the system and find the right players and do deals at the right money. But just because they haven't spent that money doesn't mean that they're not going to. You look at Harry Kane, you look at what they need. He is the perfect player for them to go to. And you look at some of the players that they're talking about throwing in versus some of the players that we would look to throw in. Unfortunately, we're in different fields. So it's frightening that they're moving like this. And added to the fact that yesterday they were linked to Jack Grealish as well. If they go and sign a Kane and a Grealish, it's going to be very tough for us.
Don't even say that. Imagine City signing Grealish and Kane. Oh, no, I didn't want to think about that. Look, it's crazy because, that offer is an insane offer. 100 mil, potentially you can throw in Laporte and Sterling, or Laporte and Jesus, or whatever it is. Like, it's like some quality players that Laporte would go to Tottenham and be their best defender by far. And to think that Daniel Levy is rejecting it, or the reports are saying that he has no intention, it's like, brother, you better put your pride aside, because you're not gonna get an offer like that, again, if that's the case. Like, the prospect of Kane going to City, though, it's scary, because it's like, it's the cherry on top for them. It's like, it reminds me of sort of when we got Van Persie from Arsenal, and it was like, you bring in this goal scorer, you bring in this guy where it's like, we're going to feed him the ball, and he's just going to deliver. And Kane would do that for City. He will just deliver. And that's a scary sight, to think that they are a team who's already just won the league. We're in the Champions League final. They're going to go try and add the best striker in the league. We're trying to catch up. What are we doing to catch up? Do you know what I mean? It's really, you know, as a United fan, you sit there and you do sort of worry. You're like, I really hope they don't. I hope Daniel Levy is just stubborn. You know what I mean? I hope he just, you know, doesn't accept the deal, because that would be horrible for us.
It's a different race, isn't it? You know, it's me at the dad race on the egg and spoon, and they're running the 100 meters. Like we're really, really going to struggle if they sign both those players. But I tell you what, the board have got to look at themselves and really question, you know, where they're at with this.
Yeah.
Because we throw accusations of them. They run it like a business. It's just a business. But if they sit back and allow Manchester City to go and sign arguably two of the best talents in the league without us even competing, I mean, if we go in for them and match their bids or better their bids, and both players turn around and go, do you know what? We just want to play for Pep and go to Manchester City. Then, you know, all we can do as fans is hold our hands up and say, look, we tried. We couldn't get the deal done.
Yeah.
We're not even being linked to him, Levin. We're not even trying.
Yeah.
Like, it's madness.
Yeah, that's the part that is like, you know, it's also where you sort of see like they've been needing a striker. That's like the big hole in their squad. Their lack of a talisman, and that striker that's going to go out there and get them goals. And, you know, they clearly identify that and they want to go fix that problem. Whereas it feels like where our biggest holes, it's like the board, they're not bothered about where our biggest holes are. The priority is you bring in just any marquee signing where you can bring in, and they've decided it's Jadon Sancho, right? And so it's like, you know, you talk about how clubs being run well, right? A well-run club is easily able to identify the weaknesses in their team and put in a transfer strategy that approaches that. Whereas even though I do think, you know, to some degree we need Sancho, Sancho's going to really help us in terms of being able to keep the width of the right. It takes pressure off Wan-Bissaka in terms of his ability to go forward. Yeah, that's effective, but it's like there's bigger pressing issues in our squad. There's bigger issues, and it just doesn't feel like the board are reflecting that sort of energy that we as a fan base have in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Just quickly, I did get it wrong. I made a mistake. I'm human. Aberystwyth is North Wales, not West Wales. I can see some of the North Walians in the comments absolutely losing their sheep over the fact that I got the wrong part of Wales. So please settle down, guys. I made a mistake. It's North. It's not West.
I actually stayed in Bangor for a couple of months when I was a bit younger. Yeah, I stayed there for a couple of months. It was nice. It was nice. We got a super chat here. So you got the name right. Thank you. Jai Deep, I got the name right. Interesting about Harry Kane. Think he can keep up with Pep's demanding style of football, or will it take a toll on him? Well, I think that's the one question that I think some people had during the season. Was like, you know, Kane and his ankle stuff and all this, whatever. I did watch the overlap, the interview he did with Gary Neville, and based off of what he was saying, it's like he doesn't worry about it too much. I think, you know, in terms of the style of play and how he actually fits into their system, I actually think he would fit in well. I get that they play like a, you know, pressing, a very demanding pressing style, but at the same time, his ability to sort of link up the play, right? His ability to sort of drop deep and sort of create overloads in the midfield would really suit in terms of what Pep likes to do with the positional play and whatnot. So I think Harry Kane would be great. I do think he would be great at City, and I don't want that. Like I just straight up don't want that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really hope this doesn't happen. We have Murillo here with a super chat saying Pog left mid, Sancho right mid, Rash off the bench. Would it work? But you can't have Rashford off the bench, right, Jordan? Like surely not.
No. He's too big a character off the field for him to just sit on the bench. And I feel like that type of thing has overpowered it. But you look at his goals again, and I don't think particularly he's had a great season. But listen, numbers don't lie. The guy who scored goals this season again for us. So yeah, no, he can't just sit on the bench. Do I get frustrated with him? Yes. Do I feel like he's got another level to go up? Is he quite inconsistent at times? Yes. But he's got to play games.
Yeah. And I also think with Rashford, it's like, you know, there's obviously the carrying injuries aspect of it, right? But, you know, I look at the system we've played with a lot of the time, and it's not like, you know, I feel like as a coach, right, you know, when you're approaching your squad, you look at your squad, you look at your best players, you know, what are their strengths and weaknesses and how do we play to that, right? And I often don't feel like we've done that well. You know, you see, you know, the games where Rashford's often done well is these games where there's plenty of space in behind for him to run into, you know, and I think he thrives in that. but with someone of his ability, you'd expect, you'd expect there to at least have been a level of advancement where even against a low block, he can be super effective. And I think that's where we often get frustrated with him, right? When teams are sitting back against us and he can't quite get into the game. But, that's something that the coaching staff got to work on. Do you know what I mean? And so I would like to see a bit more progression there. But even with that, like, to me, you got to play Rashford. Rashford has to play just because of that ability of, he can have a bad game, but still win you the game by just getting that goal. You know what I mean? He has that ability. So.
No, I agree. It's common here from Josh Ban. I think the board are worried more about below teams than above them. That's the problem. Also, Pogba deal will be worth it only if we sign a CDM. Well, I guess that's what we've been saying, Josh, is that in order to see the best out of Paul Pogba, look at the formula for France. They got Kante, one of the best CDMs in the world, if not the best. And we see the best of Paul Pogba. He plays with a freedom. He's not concerned about tracking back. He said himself, he's not a good defender. He's not a great tackler. He will do it. He will try, but that's not his game. So we're asking somebody who knows his weaknesses to do something that he's not good at. And now we're just starting to get into CDMs. And I've said this before, Levin, and I'm sure you agree. We don't need to go and spend 70, 80 million on Declan Rice. There are good CDMs who understand the position for 30, 40 million. And I know our board like to penny pinch, but if that's all the budget is to sign a CDM, then we can go and get someone for that kind of money.
Yeah. And I really like this chat here from Josh Band, because he says, I think the board are worried about below teams than above teams. That's the problem. Also, Pogba deal will be worth it only if we sign a CDM. And I said this on the show yesterday, right, on the panel. If you watch Sir Alex Ferguson Never Give In, the one thing he kept on sort of harping on, right, was that at United, like, the one thing he'd always focus on season to season is like, is this squad good enough to beat Liverpool? Right? He said that's the team to beat. If I know if I'm better than Liverpool, we're good enough to win the Prem, right? And it's like that's almost been lost now. It's like nothing about the way we've approached our squad and the way we've approached recruitment and things like that says to me we're trying to build a squad that can beat Man City, because they're the team to beat. And even still Liverpool, right? Liverpool, you'd argue, is still that sort of team to beat, where that's the standard. City's the standard, Liverpool's the standard. There's nothing about it that tells me like we are building a squad to be better than those teams. And why has that culture been lost? You have all these people who were managed by Sir Alex, right? Surely they would understand that. It's like, where has that been lost in time and lost in translation? It's a big shame, because I do agree. It does feel like, some of the rumors you hear is like, that will help us beat Southampton. Sure, that will help us beat Leeds maybe in a tough match. But it's like, we need to be better than City. We need to have a stronger squad. Forget even the starting 11s. We need to have a stronger squad. We need to have depth to be able to be playing in all these competitions week in, week out, and still be able to be playing at a high level. And it just doesn't feel like we have that at the moment.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Evan. Do you feel like, yes, we finished second in the league, and over the course of the season, the league doesn't lie. I don't feel like we were the second best team. And I don't feel like going into next season with the second best team. How do you feel?
I think you can definitely look at not Tottenham, so imagine Tottenham flipping out. I think you can look at Tuchel when he came into Chelsea and what that team looks like. And you definitely, you probably say that team over the course of a season under his tutelage is a better side than United. And even with other, I do agree with you. I think it's second place, right? And it's a weird second place, because you look at some of the football being played sometimes, you look at some of the results we actually lost. Like, that's the one thing, right? Even though you can definitely make the case that the second place wasn't amazing, some of the games we lost, if we just don't lose those games, we are actually in a serious title race with City, right? The Sheffield game, for example, games like that where it's like, we have no business losing this game. Even against Leicester, we should have beaten Leicester, but it's like, you win some of them fixtures and you're even closer to the top. So it's like, it was a very weird season. And I definitely agree. I think going into next season, as things stand, I don't think we're the second best team. It's funny because after the transfer windows all the other top clubs had, there were people saying we wouldn't even get top four. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea had a the best window of anybody. You know, even Spurs had a better window than us. Spurs brought in a bunch of players where you thought, oh, actually, they're actually trying to build a squad here. And yeah, at the moment, we do need to bring in a couple first teamers, if not, you know, some good bench players as well. But it just doesn't seem like any of that's being done. So that's a big worry for me. Big worry.
Yeah, yeah. How many signings do you think we actually will make?
That's a tough one, because that's me. That's basically like asking me, how competent do you think the board are? And the answer is not very. So I think realistically, maybe they'll give Ollie 2 first teamers, and then, you know, we'll sign a couple of young players similar to like the Diallo type thing, right? You bring a couple of them in. But I think maybe 2 first teamers and like 2 people who can sort of be replacements for people off the bench, maybe. But even then, I think that's a bit generous. Like, I don't even know if we'll get that. I mean, I don't even know if we'll get that, because I can see a world where they don't get Varane or Ramos. They bring in a centre-back, but Ollie just doesn't trust that centre-back over Lindelof. And so even though that centre-back was supposed to be a first-team signing, it's like Ollie just plays Lindelof anyway. That's why, like, it needs to be a box-office centre-back. Like, the centre-back we sign has to be someone where, you know, Ollie just has to start them, because there's no question about it. So, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I don't feel we're going to do as much business as other people feel we're going to do. I think you're right. I think we will do 2 signings. I think Sancho, because, like I said, it's been going on since last year. They've got to get that deal done, and they need that marquee poster boy signing. So I think Sancho will be done, and I think it'll be a right back for as backup for Wan-Bissaka. Hopefully, it will be Trippier. But if not, I can see us bringing a right back in. I really don't think we're going to sign a centre back, and I don't think we're going to sign a CDM. I think we will hopefully try and move some of the deadwood on, try and free up these players. But yeah, I really can't see us doing a lot.
Yeah, it's sad that we can't sit here and be more optimistic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe once some of the signings are brought in, maybe once the Sancho deal comes in, maybe we will be excited for that. Who knows? But regardless, Jordan, it's been a pleasure being here with you tonight. Hopefully we can do a couple more of these. I've enjoyed it, man. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, 10 p.m. little wrap-up show, myself and Levin, the link up that everybody's been waiting for. Amazing.
Well, look, guys, be sure to like, comment down below. Let us know whether you think Pogba's worth £400,000 a week. I'm sure I can expect to see a lot of no's, but regardless, let us know what you think in the comments. It's been Levin, it's been Jordan. We'll see you guys all soon. Goodbye.